The Silence Beneath the Stones, Karnak, 1200 BC. If you went there tomorrow, guides would walk you through towering columns and talk about divine glory. You'd take photos, you'd whisper incredible under your breath, and you'd be right, it is incredible. But in 1923, beneath the temple floor, a British excavation team stopped working for 3 days. Not because they found gold, not because they found a royal tomb, because they found handprints, dozens of them, pressed into plaster that had dried 3,000 years ago. Small hands, children's hands. Some pressed so hard, the fingerprints are still visible today. Next to them, scratched into limestone with something sharp, maybe a broken piece of pottery, maybe a fingernail, a single sentence repeated over and over. Mut does not hear us. Mut, the mother goddess, protector of children, guardian of innocence itself. So why would children living in her temple write that she couldn't hear them? Why carve it into a wall in a corridor that led nowhere? And why did no official record ever mention it? The priests called these girls the pure ones. Temple inscriptions, carved in stone, painted in gold, described them as divine brides and blessed of the gods. The language was beautiful, reverent, holy. But beautiful words can hide ugly rooms. Margaret Murray was a respected archaeologist doing routine work near the Temple of Mut in 1923, cataloging fragments, measuring foundations, boring stuff. Then she noticed something wrong with a storage room wall, a section that sounded hollow when tapped. Behind it, a sealed chamber that hadn't been opened since the reign of Ramesses. Inside, a plain clay jar. No decoration, no markings, hidden on purpose. The jar contained 17 papyrus letters. Murray brought her discovery to the Egyptian Antiquity Service. They took the jar, classified everything inside. 3 senior scholars who had spent decades translating hieroglyphs looked at the first few translations and refused to continue. One of them wrote 4 words in his personal diary. Some truths stay buried. The jar sat in a Cairo warehouse for over 70 years before anyone saw those letters again. What could make trained historians, people who had dedicated their lives to uncovering the past, suddenly decide they didn't want to know? Let's back up. Context matters. Ancient Egypt, New Kingdom period, roughly 1550 to 1070 BC. This was the Golden Age, the Egypt of monuments and conquests and god-kings. But temples weren't just places of worship, they were economic engines. The Temple of Amun at Karnak controlled vast agricultural lands, thousands of laborers, livestock herds, and shipping fleets. Administrative records from the period, dry, bureaucratic, full of numbers, show temple holdings that sometimes exceeded the pharaoh's personal wealth. Priests weren't only spiritual leaders, they were asset managers with divine authority. And they had a system. A farmer borrows from the temple, grain for planting, copper for tools. Interest accumulates, harvests fall short, debt grows. After a few bad years, the farmer faces a choice: lose everything, enter servitude, or dedicate a daughter to temple service. The priests framed it gently. She will serve the god. She will live in the divine house. She will be honored. Legal documents from workers' villages show the reality. Contracts listing girls by name, by age, by the debt their bodies paid off. One record describes a 9-year-old given to the Temple of Amun in exchange for a sum worth roughly 3 months of labor. A child, traded like grain. But here's where it gets complicated, because not every temple girl suffered the same fate. Some learned to read and write. Some studied astronomy and mathematics. Some rose to manage temple finances, command servants, wear gold jewelry, and wield genuine influence. A woman named Tawi administered the entire household of Amun during the 21st dynasty. Real power. So what separated the powerful from the powerless? What made one girl a future administrator and another a name scratched on a medical prescription for internal injuries? The answer was never written in official records, but it was written in that hidden jar. The letters came from a woman named Tentipet. She served in Mut's temple for 4 decades. She wrote in Demotic, the everyday script of common people, not the formal hieroglyphs of monuments. Her handwriting slopes like someone writing quickly, secretly, afraid of being caught. She describes something called the choosing. It happened regularly. Girls were selected and brought to inner chambers after evening rituals. The youngest in her account was 8 years old.
Tentipet writes that the high priest wore a ceremonial mask, gold ram-horned, representing Amun himself. He told the girls they were vessels for the god, that what happened to them was sacred, that they should feel blessed. Murray's private notes, archived at University College London, summarize it simply: ritual sexual abuse, systematically organized, recorded in temple logs alongside grain deliveries and cattle counts. Not chaos, not one creditor, a system. Other letters in the jar came from different women across different generations. They had found the hidden vessel over the years and added their own testimonies, as if building a secret archive where the truth could survive. One wrote, "My name was erased when I entered. My father believed the priest who said I would marry the god. I was 11. There is no god in that room. Only men who say they speak for gods." Another, "I have given birth 3 times in this temple. Each child was taken from me. My daughter now serves as I once did. She walks past me in processions. She does not know I am her mother." Now the handprints make sense. Tentipet explains the ritual. When new girls arrived, they were led through that dead-end corridor in darkness. Priests told them to press their hands into wet plaster, a symbolic death and rebirth. Your old life ends here. You belong to the god now. Scared children did what they were told. But years later, some of those same girls returned to that corridor.
It was unguarded, forgotten, the one place no one watched. They pressed their hands again, older now, larger, and carved their message beside them. Mute does not hear us. Not a prayer, a testimony, a message for whoever might find it centuries later and understand what the golden inscriptions never said. Around 1100 BC, something shifted. The title God's Wife of Amun became restricted to royal women, Pharaoh's daughters with political protection and personal guards. Celibacy requirements appeared. Reforms limited who could access whom. The Harris Papyrus, written by Ramesses III, refers vaguely to corruptions and impurities that had stained sacred institutions. Scholars like Gay Robbins argue these reforms were responses to abuses that had finally reached the royal court, complaints too loud to ignore. The solution was structural: put untouchable women at the top, women who could say no. Victims became the model for reform. One of the most significant changes came from Shepenwepet II, who served as God's wife in the first millennium BC. She entered temple service at 9 years old. Decades later, holding real power, she issued decrees limiting the age of entry and restricting priestly authority over girls' bodies. She remembered, and she changed what she could. After 600 BC, the hidden letters stop. No more secret testimonies, no more jars. Did the abuse end? Or did the institutions simply get better at controlling information? Murray's discovery stayed classified for 71 years. When scholars finally accessed the letters in 1994, many in the field ignored them. Too uncomfortable, too complicated, easier to write about architecture. Stand in Karnak today, look up at the columns, feel the weight of 3,000 years pressing down. It really is beautiful. Now remember what beauty required. Stones cut by hands that couldn't refuse. Hymns sung by voices that couldn't say no. Sanctuaries maintained by children who carved desperate messages in hidden places because no one else would listen. We still do this. We build gleaming institutions and forget what holds them up.
We use reverent language until cruelty sounds like tradition. We call things sacred because it's easier than calling them what they are. One last thing. Tentipet's jar held 17 letters, but the jar could hold 20. 3 are missing. According to Murray's notes, those missing letters contained names, specific priests, officials, families who knew and stayed silent. In 2003, an antiquities dealer in Cairo claimed he had seen them in a private collection. He died before revealing where. Somewhere those names are still waiting. And the stones, they remember everything.